Buying a home can be a lot of fun, a lot of stress, and very overwhelming. But there is definitely also mistakes that you could possibly make. And honestly, over and over and over again, I keep on talking to my buyers because they are super excited and they have in their head what they're wanting to get and what they're wanting to buy, but there's definitely mistakes that could be had. And in this video, I'm gonna be talking about the top 5 mistakes I think you personally can make when moving to Denver. Let's get started. Hi there, Christy Lee here, and I am a local real estate agent, and I'm going to be talking to you about the 5 mistakes buyers I am finding are making when purchasing a home in Denver. Now, the very first one, and I feel like it's not the most important one. I feel like the very last one is the most important one, so definitely watch that. But the first one is a conversation I'm constantly having with my buyers, and it's like they're not thinking about the future. So number 1 mistake, think about your future, and maybe not even your future, but future selling the house. So for an example, if you're looking for a house and you absolutely love it, but maybe it's only like 3 bedrooms and 1 bath, that's going to be an issue for potential buyers down the road when you've now grown out of that house and you have people coming in and maybe they have a family, or maybe you have a growing family and you only have this 1 bathroom. And so people don't really think about that kind of stuff right off the bat. Also, like the location, or no storage, no backyards, things like that. No backyard. Some people don't care. Some people are like, I don't need a backyard. I don't want a backyard. So they buy this house. Condos and townhomes are different. Obviously, they're not supposed to have it. But actual houses that don't have yards or, any sort of backyard do become issues for selling purposes. Now, as a buyer, you're like, sweet, I don't really care. But if you're going to sell it, now all of a sudden you have a family coming in and they want to put up a big playground, or maybe you have dogs and buyers want to have dogs and they want to bring their stuff. And so things like that, people don't really think about for the future purposes. Storage, where's all my stuff going to go, So definitely think about, when you're purchasing a house, not only think about your current situation and what you currently need right now, but also what you need in the future, whether or not you're going to have a family, whether or not things are going to grow in your life, or if I'm going to sell this in 3 or 4 years, what does that look like for the next potential buyer? Is that buyer going to want all those things? And that's going to help determine on what type of house and what type of investment you're going to be making right now. Okay, so the second mistake I find that people do is they're not really thinking about the location. And what I mean by that is I've had people who are very, very interested in, let's just say horse properties, or, kind of like the farm ranch areas, which are awesome. But a lot of those areas are going to be kind of on main country roads, right? And if that's the type of person and that's the type of lifestyle you want, awesome. But if you have little kiddos, when we're here and they're like, okay, we have little kids, where's my kid gonna play? They can't play outside in the front for sure. And if you're backing up to a back road, you're gonna hear all that traffic, right? I also think about trick-or-treating. These poor kiddos are not gonna be able to trick-or-treat or ride their bike in that front area because there's so much traffic going on. So definitely think about the location of the house. While it might fit you right now, maybe you don't care about the noise, maybe you don't care about all that stuff, but think about in the future, are you going to have kids that are going to want to be playing in these areas? Or maybe, your potential buyers, in the future, maybe it's going to be harder to sell because of that major road. Maybe there's not a road right now, but maybe you need to do your research. Are they planning a road out there? So think about those kind of things, just because when you get all up and you're getting super excited and you love the house and this and that, and then all of a sudden you realize, is this going to be kind of harder to sell in the future? Unless you're not planning on ever moving, which honestly, most people move every 5 to 7 years. So, it's hard to believe if you're not planning on moving. But if you're not, great, you might love it. On the flip side though, it might be harder to sell. And I do find that the homes that are sitting more often are going to be the ones that are on these busy roads, and it's just because people don't want to deal with the noise. So something to think about. All right, if you're liking my content, please remember to click that subscribe button right there. Give me a thumbs up, comments, anything like that. It really helps me out. Now back to the video. All right, number 3 mistake is going to be the growth within an area, or at least not investigating what type of growth is going to be in this area. If you want to move to some podunk town and not have any growth, then definitely do your research, because Colorado is growing like crazy. And so most likely, depending on where you're going, you're going to have some sort of growth. Now, if you're somebody who wants to, get on somewhere like, at the very beginning, and you want to ensure that you're going to have, booming equity here in the years to come, do your research. Talk to your real estate agent. Talk to me. I know where all those growing places are. And so you could get in on ground zero and then watch the equity boom. But a lot of people just kind of like, they just hear of a particular area and that's where they're thinking that they want to be. And maybe those areas aren't growing nearly as fast as some of the other areas. Or maybe there's just not things around it. And so it's not drawing people to those areas. So then when they're trying to sell in the future, they're just like, why move there? There's nothing there, unless that's the type of lifestyle you want. Most people don't want to gravitate towards those areas just because if there's nothing, if there's not even like a Starbucks or a King Soopers or something, a lot of people are like, no, it's going to be too far to drive, so it's going to be harder to sell. So think about those type of things too when you're researching and you're out looking for homes. All right, number 4, and a biggie I personally believe is schools, parks, trails, things like that. Now, I understand it, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, maybe in your early mid-20s, I don't know, late 20s, and you're thinking about buying a home. Most likely you're probably not thinking about schools. I mean, I definitely wasn't in my 20s, trust me. But once you start having a family, those are the type of things that you want to know about. You want to know what type of schools. Are they good schools? How close are they? Blah, blah, blah. You also want to know where the parks are or the trails and things like that. So again, if you're in your first time homeowners scenario and you're trying to find these things, especially if you don't have kids right now, that's totally fine. And maybe it's not going to be important to you, maybe ever. But I'm thinking about down the road, if you're planning on ever selling that particular home, know what kind of area you're in, because most people who are buying in that particular area may or may not want a particular house because of the schools, because of the lack of parks, because of lack of trails, things like that. So before you invest in anything, know your surroundings and think about, okay, if I'm going to be selling this in 5 or 6 years, what type of people are going to be wanting to live in this area? And will they fit, that clientele that, that area's, gravitating towards, I should say. And so, if you're around schools and this and that, most likely it's going to be continuing to go up, because families, that tends to be, families, young families, things like that are going to be going to that. All right. And number 5, and what I personally think is the biggest mistake, especially right now when purchasing a home or lack of purchasing a home, is people just waiting for the market to shift. All right. Like, it is what it is. Interest rates are what they are. And that's how it's always been for decades. People are always buying and selling. But if you're going to wait for the market to shift, honestly, you're going to be missing out, because the longer that you're waiting, while yes, the interest rates might go down, the housing prices go up. So what does that mean? That means that now interest rates are down, so now you have more buyers, which means you have more competition, which means that the housing prices are even going to go even further, because now you're going to have bidding wars. So you're going to be overpaying for the house in general. So honestly, biggest mistake is to wait. You should just, buy something now and then actually wait for the interest rates to go down so you could refi, but you still have a lower priced home. Honestly, there's never going to be a perfect time, because you could be waiting forever, especially if you're renting. Now you're just throwing away rent, honestly, on things that aren't even gaining, equity in your own pocket. So these are, my top 5 mistakes that I find buyers are making, or they're at least not, knowing about before they're purchasing their home. Please reach out to me anytime. I'm always here to help in any way possible. Remember to click that subscribe button right there. That way you are notified every time I have a new video. And then to the next video. Take care.